My name is Sharon, and I'm based in Canada. I am the founder of WFWT. I'm a certified coach, as are all the women here on the panel. My specialty is whole life, all of our entire lives' struggles, and being able to rise above them and become whole again. Women for Women's Truth is a movement of healing, a return to the stories we were never taught to speak out loud. It's understanding that one woman's truth becomes another woman's mirror. That's when you share your story. You reach into the quiet hurt of someone else's life and whisper, "You're not alone. I see you. I walk a similar path." The movement is an invitation to soften, to unmask, to step into the light of who you truly are without apology. It is a reminder that courage is contagious. Every time a woman speaks her truth, she lends her voice to those who haven't yet found theirs. So if you're carrying a truth inside you, unspoken, waiting, let this be your permission. Could you speak it gently or speak it boldly? Could you speak it trembling or speak it steadily? Can you speak it? Because your truth matters, your voice matters. And in sharing it, you may illuminate the path for another woman to share hers finally. Hello, everyone, and welcome to this webinar of toxic relationships. We're so glad you've dedicated the time to explore an important and often challenging topic with us. Our goal today is to provide you with the powerful new perspectives and practical tools for setting boundaries and reclaiming your peace. Before we dive into this content, we need to take a moment for a very important procedural step. Since we are dealing with sensitive matters of the heart and mind, clarity is key. As certified life coaches, we operate under a specific framework, and we want to ensure you know exactly what this webinar is, and more importantly, what it is not. Please listen carefully to this brief but crucial notice. Your facilitators are certified life coaches, providing educational self-help strategies who are solely acting as certified life coaches. The webinar cannot diagnose or treat mental health issues or provide crisis intervention. If you are in a dangerous crisis, please immediately call 911 or a crisis hotline, example 988 in the US and Canada. The content shared is for informational purposes only. You are solely responsible for how you choose to use the information and any results that follow. By remaining in this webinar, you acknowledge and agree to these terms. I hope you all understand what I've just said, and hopefully we can truly help you today. There's one more thing I want to say to you guys is that we have 6, 7 amazing coaches here, and I hope you enjoy what they have to say and learn a lot from them. The first one to talk is going to be Dr. Antar from India. She's a certified life coach. As we saw, we all are certified, so I'm not going to repeat this again. She specializes in resilience, wellness, and mindset. Antar, take it away, please.
Hello, everyone. I'm so grateful you're here today. Before we deep dive in, we'll just take a pause and take a moment to tune inwards. When you hear the word love, what comes up? Does it feel safe, anxious, confusing, or peaceful? If you want, type one word in the chat what comes up for you when you think of love. Another thing I want you to think about is, what does a healthy relationship feel like to you? Maybe it feels like ease, trust, respect, freedom, or understanding. If something I say feels tender or hits home, just take a deep breath. That usually means a part of you is waking up. And awakening, though uncomfortable at times, is always worth it. So let's just start by defining what toxic relationships look like. So every relationship has conflict. That's human. The difference is how that conflict is handled. There are tough but healthy relationships where both people they are willing to take responsibility. There's communication, accountability, and an effort to repair. Disagreements might get heated, but there's mutual respect and emotional safety. You can be yourself without fear of being judged, controlled, or punished. On the other hand, in toxic relationships, one or both people use control, guilt, criticism, or emotional withdrawal to maintain power. You leave interactions feeling drained, anxious, or confused instead of supported. Over time, your sense of self erodes and you start questioning your own worth and reality. Toxicity isn't just about fighting, it's about emotional imbalance and manipulation. Healthy love brings you home to yourself. Toxic love disconnects you from it. Now, I want to walk you through the 5 toxic patterns I see most often. You may notice one or more showing up in your own experiences. The first one being emotional manipulation. This is where guilt, blame, or twisting your feelings becomes a way to control the situation. You hear phrases like, you're overreacting, or if you loved me, you would. The second one being gaslighting. This is when your reality is denied. Phrases like, that never happened. You're imagining things. It makes you doubt your own memory, intuition, and truth. The third one, control disguised as care. It sounds like concern. For example, I just want to know where you are all the time. But the intention is to monitor, not to love. The fourth one is silent treatment. Affection or communication is withdrawn until you bend, apologize, or comply. You start walking on eggshells. The fifth one is love bombing. The intense affection at the start, the soulmate language, and then suddenly coldness, criticism, or distance. You end up chasing the version of them that never truly existed. These patterns are subtle at first, but they have a profound impact on your sense of self, your confidence, and your ability to trust your own heart. So let's describe some signs that you're in a toxic dynamic. You feel constant self doubt, questioning your worth or sanity. You're walking on eggshells, fearing how they'll react. You're losing your sense of self. Hobbies, joy, and confidence fade. You confuse love with fear or relief, feeling calm only when they're pleased. You're apologizing for things that aren't your fault. Healthy relationships challenge you to grow, not shrink. If you have to dim your light to keep the peace, it's not love, it's control. But the question here is, why do we still stay in toxic relationships? We don't stay in toxic relationships because we're weak. We stay because our nervous system was trained, often very early in life, to bond in these patterns. So these are this is the hidden psychology behind the toxic patterns. This is a really important part because we don't stay in relationships because we're weak. So the first one is attachment wounds. The anxious, avoidant, or disorganized patterns we developed in childhood quietly replay in our adult relationships. We attract what feels familiar until we heal what's underneath. The second one is childhood emotional neglect. When our emotions weren't met or mirrored growing up, we learned that love has to be earned, performed for, or chased. So as adults, calmness feels unfamiliar and intensity feels like love. The third sign is trauma bonding. This is the addictive high-low cycle. There is fear, then there is relief, then there is hope, and then there is fear again. Your nervous system starts mistaking relief for love, which makes the bond feel even stronger. The last one is emotional addiction. Here, chaos feels like chemistry. Validation feels like oxygen. And this is why leaving can feel like withdrawal, because it's not just emotional, it's neurological. So I would want you to ask yourself this question here. What pattern do I notice repeating in my relationships? Notice the emotion that comes up: fear, longing, guilt, or resentment. That emotion points to the wound beneath that pattern. Yes, there is a wound that is present beneath that pattern, but the good news is that these wounds are not permanent. These patterns can be healed. They're not who you are, they're simply what you learned. And anything learned can be unlearned. You can reclaim yourself, you can break old cycles, you can experience relationships that feel safe, steady, and nourishing. Healing happens through small but powerful shifts. For example, emotionally detaching from what drains you, setting healthy boundaries, rebuilding self-worth, teaching your nervous system that peace is safe. And you don't have to do it alone. This is exactly why this space exists. As coaches, our work is to help you understand your patterns, reconnect with your inner strength, reshape your relationship blueprint, and support you as you move from toxic dynamics towards healthy, secure, emotionally available love. So, this is a space to heal, to grow, and to remember the version of you that knows exactly what healthy love feels like. So remember, love is energy, not performance. We feel safe not because everything is perfect, but because we get to be ourselves. Thank you, everyone.
All right, that was amazing. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Sharon.
Only a doctor would say it to you the way you said it. Thank you, my darling. Our
Thank you, Sharon.
next doctor, Namrata. Our
Thank you, Sharon.
next doctor, Namrata, who is from UK. Her coaching specializes in health and wellness and emotional awareness. And she's going to talk. Here we go.
Thank you, Antar. I was like really touched with what you said, resonated so much. Thanks for the kind introduction, Sharon. So, um, so basically, I was asked to share my personal experience for the session, and I then realized even after many years, I'm not able to share. But it doesn't make me any weak. It doesn't show my weakness, and it doesn't mean that I'm ashamed of what happened. But on the other side, I have become this incredibly powerful and strong person, and I'm very, very proud of it. And this is exactly the same reason I'm standing up in this platform to talk to the women out there, talk to the people who is going through this relationship. Being a scientist and also a life coach, my logical side always cushioned one thing that Antar has also touched on. Why is it so difficult for us to break the cycle, break this pattern? And I'll try to show the biological side and the psychological side of it. So, in short, just to say your biology and psychology, it makes it extremely hard for you to break this pattern. And before I again go a little bit further on the detail, I would like to say that this work doesn't reflect my actual research work, but this is just my understanding of reading science and paper. So let's dig deep into it. So why is it difficult to break our cycle? So on the right-hand side, you see this really cartoon diagram of our brain. So when you're going through your toxic relationship, there are different parts of the brain and they are in imbalance. Some parts, they become hyperactive and there are other parts will weaken and become underactive. So you have this imbalance. Let's take some example. For example, the amygdala part, which is this tiny center here, you spend a lot of your time overthinking, in fear, in panic. And this is you're focusing your most of your energy in. And similarly, the brain stem is mainly working on your fight, flight, freeze response. So you are basically spending a lot of the time in the limbic region. Whereas the other part, the parts which are really going to help you to take this journey, for example, the prefrontal cortex, which is the frontal part of your brain, takes the executive decision, logical part of the brain, help you to plan. It actually becomes weak and underactive. And you would come across a lot of these people who has gone through this episodes and they will have foggy memory or fragmented pattern of memory. That's because their hippocampus is shutting down. And so as the Broca's area, so the Broca's area helps you to speech production, which I personally relate. So it helps you to articulate your emotions, your finding, your feelings, but that kind of shut down during the process. So you can see how your brain structuring is not helping during this process. And also your brain likes this repetitiveness, something you are doing on repetitive basis, your brain will normalize it. So in this case, your toxicity will become your normal self. So you have seen now the brain, how it's behaving, biology side. Now look into the chemistry. So it's not helping here, as this is the answer. So basically, I'm just going to focus on mainly two hormones, oxytocin, dopamine. So oxytocin is the hormone we commonly know as the love hormone. So this is the same hormone when you hold your baby, your child, you have this hormone release. So someone who is going through a toxic relationship, so in the episode of the love bombing or the apology phase, they will have exactly same hormone release, but your body won't be able to tell the root of those chemicals. So dopamine, Antar has slightly touched on, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time here. So dopamine is the hormone that release when you're excited about something. It's the reward hormone. So I look at it more like a gambling effect. So when you are going in the sudden highs, so loving and apology, your dopamine is right out there. And during those episode of the painful crashes, it crash. And then you again go in this wanting to having this high. So your both biology and chemistry in your brain is not helping you to come out of this cycle. And let's look into the psychological side of the things. So this is, I think a lot of us here knows, is our Maslow's law hierarchy of needs. So this is the 5 steps of this pyramid. So in a healthy relationship, people tend to go from the bottom to towards the top. So in the bottom part, you go from the physiological needs, such as you wanting to have food, the basic needs of human, and then you move towards your safety, then love and belonging, and your self-esteem. And if you look at the very top, this is where is your self-actualization coming. This is where you want to do things for yourself, your creativity, your job, your dreams come true. But think of it, when you are in a toxic relationship, where do you think you're spending most time? At the bottom, at the safety level. And to some extent, a lot of these partners, they actually rely on their partners for their basic needs. So all your focus are in this area. Safety reason, what can I do so that I don't upset that person? So can you realize that your self-actualization is far away from you? Okay, so how do we come out of here and what is the next story? So as Antar has already touched on this thing, I'm going to reiterate again that whatever works for you is that could be your willpower, is your support system, friends and family, and you have this strong willpower, you finally come out of this relationship. And alongside that, different therapies, for example, the talking therapies could help physical activities. So in some cases, talking therapy doesn't help all the time because remember, your speech center can sometimes shut down. So in those cases, your physical activities such as breath work, meditation, it could be boxing. But in all cases, it could be trial and error. Something works for you, something doesn't work for other. But what I personally thought was life-changing was the life coaching, because through the therapy, you open this Pandora's box. Okay, you see this pattern of toxic relationship, you understand what's happened to your life, and
But
you are
stop. Give me
working
your
on
phone. Give me your phone right
healing
away.
process. Sorry, if someone, can you put your phone in the mute, please? So yes, so basically what I'm saying, so talking therapy and physical therapy combined act as magic, but what truly works is your life coaching, because through life coaching, you see this you change your mindset. The inner dialogue is shifted, and then you become the empowered version of future self. And I would like to finish it off with this beautiful Japanese art. It's called Japanese art called is kintsugi art. So basically, if you think of our life as this plain teapot, white teapot, anything plain you could imagine. And through those relationships, you break that into pieces. So this is what they do in this art. So they break that into pieces, but you don't try to fix it straight away. You look at the pieces, you understand these pieces, and then you join them together. When you join them together, you paint those pieces with this beautiful golden work. And then it's up to you how you design it, how you design your life. I don't look at this painting as just golden colors. It's the journey you have taken, the journey you have embarked, the journey of your wisdom. So what kind of love are you going to choose today? And I'm going to finish my talk here. Thank you for your time. And thank you for joining this webinar with us.
Thank you, Dr. Namarata. Thank you. You educated me today. Thank you, dear. But I want to ask you a question. In the young kids today, up until the age of 25, the frontal lobe is not completely finished off. How does that affect coaching? Because their growth in their brain has not developed yet in the frontal lobe.
So on that note, I truly do not know if the frontal lobe is still developing until that 25 years old. So we can look into this. But I'm not going to answer to you from a scientific perspective, but I'm just going to resonate it with my life and maybe talk from there. Lot of the time, I think is who do you surrounded yourself with? Who are your friends? And that makes a big impact, especially when you are early that yes, it's just how the young people say they will probably listen to your friends more than their parents. So who you are hanging up with, just maybe stick to one friend who is going to create that space for you if you when you are going through this. Not necessarily advice is going to help you. Someone who just listen to you. So it's the case of live and learn and also choosing your friends meticulously.
But my belief is choosing your friend is not really always the answer, because if you don't go with a friend who's older, if you go with somebody your own age and you're under 25, they possibly, I'm not saying all, have the same emotions you do. And if you don't have a mentor somewhere in your life, where do you go? And a lot of these, does anybody want to jump in? Kelly.
Yeah, this is an awesome topic. I have 3 children under the age of 25, so I'm going through aspects of this right now. I believe, not from a scientific perspective, from a mother's perspective and from a professional woman's perspective, that when given instructions upon changing something, and let's start with a messy room. Why do our children have a messy room? They don't have the ability to multitask on so many different things. Pick this up, do that, take the dirty dishes out, hang up your clothes, where's your dirty washing? All of that. They just see a fog in front of their face. So what I've learned over the years is to give one instruction and then to come in and go, okay, I've asked you 3 times, can you please support doing this one thing first and then we'll do the other thing? Now what I do is I come in and I support the process, okay, until the room is clean and tidy, and then give one instruction every single day. Make sure that you can see the carpet in your room. That's it. And then once you actually just, they keep the carpet clean, everything around the main area becomes clear and clean because they can see the clean floor, which is the main foundation of where they're living. So that's all I just wanted to share.
The reason why I asked you that question, Namrata, is I also have 3 kids, but one just turned 25. And I asked the question at 25, she's so changed than when she was younger. And that's why I said about the frontal lobe. They do change at a certain age. I'm not saying they're wise, but they change dramatically, their characters. Under 25 is just like what Kelly said. So why I brought this up and spending more time with Namrata is because, and as for Kelly, is because this is an important part of Women for Women. The women under 25, that generation, I believe, is one of the generations that needs the greatest help. And they are going to be our next generation of women when they reach their 40 to take over the world, or 30 or whatever. And that's why I want us to focus. And that's why Holly is going to speak shortly. But first, Janice is going to speak. She is from the USA. She specializes in resilience and holistic health. And she has a message that for me, when I heard her story, is heartwarming, is so needed out there. And she is so strong and courageous in telling her story. Janice, please.
Thank you. I am a lived experience. I I'm a life coach. Yes, I specialize in resilience because I have a pretty extensive lived experience. So I come from a pretty tumultuous background. My life growing up was a lot of yelling and moving around. I wasn't ever really stable. So I was able to develop a skill called emotional dysregulation, which is something that I was lucky enough to pass down to my daughter as well. We'll get into that in just a minute. So my emotional dysregulation just really shaped my life to be equally tumultuous and moving around, not really being stable. Once I became a mother, I did my best to be as stable as I could, which I did. My daughter grew up in the same elementary school. She was getting ready to go to the middle school when we moved. That was the time where my daughter started cutting herself, and how do I start? It's a really emotional for me right now, so bear with me. I want to make sure you guys get a clear picture of our life together and what I really want to convey here. Around 6th grade is where I noticed my daughter was really struggling herself with emotional dysregulation and not being able to deal with any kind of emotion, good or bad. It was just high, low, and it was extreme. So she started cutting herself around 6th, 7th grade. So she was struggling with cutting, suicidal ideation. She would swallow any pills she found, as many as possible. We spent about 7 years in and out of the hospital. And I gave her a couple of boundaries. Once I started getting help myself, right? Before I started getting help myself, I had no idea what to do, when to do it. I was absolutely paralyzed as a parent, right? I couldn't yell at her for anything because she would hurt herself. So there was no homework. Did you do your homework? There was no cleaning your room. Did you clean your room? It was all just emotions that she couldn't handle, and I couldn't handle the situation after her emotions got dysregulated. So I ended up sending her to a program. She was gone for about a year. And that was after the worst year probably of her life. We were in and out of the hospital for about the entire year. We had maybe 10 hospital stays where she would go to the hospital because I couldn't keep her safe, right? She would start cutting herself or like just hurting herself in whatever way she was, or she would try to beat me up or beat up her step siblings or her stepfather, and she would have to go to the hospital. So after that would happen, she would go to the hospital. She would stay for a week. And we did that all year. After that year, she went to a program in Utah. She was there for about 10 weeks, had the best therapy, and then she went to a girls' school. And she was there for the remainder of the year. She comes back, she's a little bit better, and has had some of the best therapy in the world at these two places. Fantastic, because it helped me out it opened my eyes to the behaviors that I was passing down to her, unbeknownst to me. Of course, my intentions were honorable. I didn't mean to hurt my daughter, but I did, right? So with that therapy, I was able to get therapy and to really address what I needed to change to be a better mother to her. Not that all of this was my fault, but some of it was. And I needed to own it for myself so that I could grow my own agency. And I needed to own it for her so that I could apologize to her and say, you know what, moving forward, this is going to be a better relationship. I'm going to be a better mother. And I'm going to work so hard to find out how I can do this for us so that we can move forward and we can both have good lives. She is doing really good. She still struggles with emotional dysregulation. She has a hard time with it. But she is leaps and bounds above where I was at her age. She's 24. She's married. She is getting ready to have her second child. And we have boundaries for each other. She has boundaries for me as a grandmother, which is brilliant. I love it. Anything she needs. And I have boundaries for her as a mother. And we respect each other. And through this respect and love and awareness, we're able to still have a good relationship. And I couldn't be more thankful. Thank you.
Thank you, Janice, for opening up your life out there to children who suffer. And I know there's a lot. And thank you for your courage to say so. Now we're going to go over to Holly, who is our youngest coach. I wasn't going to say this, but I'm going to say this. The reason why I chose Holly, because was in her 20s. All of us are older, 40s and up. And I wanted someone who's in their 20s, their perspective. And as I try to find through our school, it was hard for me because women in their 20s, a lot of them are lost, or even if they're going through coaching, they're still lost. And what I saw in Holly was a young woman who was strong, had issues, yes, but was bright and articulate and just wanted to learn and grow. So I chose this young woman. Being from Eastern Europe, it's another story in itself. And so she has lessons that we in North America don't even know. She specializes in holistic health, self-worth, and self-love. She's gone through her story. And like Janice, she's going to explain herself. Holly, it's all yours.
Thank you, Sharon, for introducing me. I'm honored to be here and that I can share my story. I'll share my screen so that I'll be able to present for you my presentation. Just give me a second. Okay, please let me know if you can see it.
Yes, we do.
Wait, okay, this one, sorry. Okay, so once again, thank you, Sharon, for introducing me. So as you said, I joined our community. I'm also a holistic coach, but I would like to share my story, especially for a younger generation that I'm representing today, but not only. I would love to talk about the toxic relationship, which is often so-called as a tough one. And I would like to make here a distinction between the tough, toxic, and healthy relationship. Because a relationship where people, the both one, take responsibility for themselves, they communicate honestly, and they face uncomfortable topics. They repair after conflict. That's not a tough relationship. That is a healthy one. And of course, there might be not so familiar for you if you grew up with emotional chaos, inconsistency, or feeling unseen. Calm can actually feel boring. The stability can feel uncomfortable. And the healthy relationship can feel too much or too hard because your system is not used to it. And when it comes to my story, from the very beginning, it just looked like a movie, or I can call it even a fairy tale, because you know how it is in the fairy tale. There, a man comes into your life at the very beginning. He's very present, texting all the time. I received good morning and good night messages. We had very long and deep conversations, of course, about the future and our relationship. I received tons of compliments, gifts, sweet gestures, and for all the time we had this romantic language, and I felt chosen. I felt seen, I felt loved, and I felt understood. However, after that, when things happened, then I understood that it was not actually a love. It was so-called love bombing. Because I received so many of such things, I was just like bombarded with messages, calls, attention, gifts, like the constant praise. And we also talked very fast from the very beginning about being our soulmates. I've heard many times that I am the only one, that will be forever. And I've never felt this way before. So in the very beginning, love bombing feels like a dream. Someone is all in from day one, and it feels finally being the main character in someone's life. And what is also important that I would love to highlight here, that it doesn't feel scary at first. It feels safe, magical, and fated. That's why it's so easy to miss these all red flags. And suddenly from this fairy tale, I went to this emotional roller coaster, because he just began to reply slower. He disappeared from hours or days. He was less available for me. He pulled me back emotionally. Then suddenly he came back to me. Again, I felt this warmth, attention, and loving words. But this whole cycle started from high to low, from high to crash, and again and again. So when I felt this high, I felt very intense connection. I felt this closeness, this passion. When we are talking about lows, about this crash, I felt distance. There was lack of contact. And of course, there was silence. But as I said, this cycle repeated. And it wasn't just in love. I wasn't just in love. I was hooked on the cycle. And I was actually living in a completely new reality, because what this all created in me was a bond based on abandonment. And what many therapists call it is also called as a trauma bond, because he was there when he wanted to be. He was gone when it was inconvenient. He was coming back when he felt like it. And my system, like my body, just learned that love is intensity, but not consistency. My system, my body also learned that connection is based on, okay, I have you, then I lose you, and then I hope I can get you back. And my nervous system was a completely disaster. Because from a nervous system perspective, this wasn't just romance, it was an adrenaline loop. How this whole cycle looked like, and actually looks like, is that when we meet and when I connected with him, I felt excitement, butterflies, euphoria, the racing heart, the light in body. I could not sleep, eat, and repeat, of course. And then the second step was when he actually disappeared from my life. And I had difficulty in sleeping, but I was overthinking about our relationship, about everything. I couldn't just figure out what is going on. I felt sadness, I felt anxiety, and I was just constantly thinking, okay, so what I am doing wrong that he is not there for me. And then when he came back to my life, of course, I felt huge relief, emotional, even like this emotional high was even stronger. And my nervous system got addicted to the pendulum swing from, as I said, like the ecstasy from very high to almost depression at the very low. So from I'm everything to I'm nothing. And what was the cost of it all? And that is the part that the more I chased the highs, the more I abandoned myself. And I've stopped expressing my needs. I've stopped setting my boundaries. I've stopped saying when something hurt me. And instead of it, I've just started doubting my value and overall myself. I've started comparing with especially different women. And I've started wondering, okay, what is wrong with me? Like these were all questions that I was keep asking myself. What was wrong with me? So the next thing I would love to hear distinguish is the healthy heart relationship between and versus toxic intense, because there's a huge difference between both of them. And the healthy one, as I said at the very beginning, is that there are two people that take responsibility for their emotions and actions. They can communicate with openness and honesty, but also there are some conflicts, and it's normal. But there is this repair after the conflict arises. And there is this consistency, no disappearing. And when it comes to toxic, the intense one, as I've described earlier, you have these highs and lows. You have this love bombing. There is this silent treatment, ghosting, emotional games, manipulation through fear of abandonment. And if you are listening to this all and some part of you is thinking, oh my God, this is me, I just want you to know one thing. That first of all, you are not stupid, you are not broken, and you are not weak. And I want to also tell you that you are more than enough. You deserve all the best and you are worthy. And it is just a reminder for you that this is not a proof of great love. When someone disappears to punish you, you constantly walk on eggshells and you do not know where you stand. It is a proof of great love when you feel safe, respected, and you don't have to beg for bare minimum. And I would love to also say to you all that healthy love will not make you question your worth every week. So please love yourself first at the very beginning. And when you start loving yourself, you trust yourself, and you just know that you deserve someone next to you who can take care of you, but first of all, also can take care of of himself. So once again, thank you.
I want to say something, but I don't know how to say it. But I assume the listeners will understand the difference between my language and your language, and that's why I chose you. Thank you for telling your story and opening it up. And I know a lot of women in your position in their 20s, and it's difficult. And you went through it, and I hope they all go through it and end up on the other side. And that's why we are here today, to help these women. Thank you.
Exactly.
Thank you, Holly. Thank you very much for your courage. Thank you. The next speaker is Janique from the USA. She specializes in integrative nutrition and lifestyle. She's going to speak about the workplace. Janique, it's all yours.
So of course, when it's my time, my screen moves behind everything else that is there. Perfect, right? So,
Yes.
All right. Well, again, welcome everyone. Thank you so much for being here. And today I am going to touch on stress and toxicity in the workplace. I will take a stab at a screen, but it's no big deal if I can get it to share. But you know what? I'm just going to talk. Let's just do that. And as you've heard so far, often we think about toxic relationships in terms of our partners, maybe our families, some sort of interpersonal or intimate. Many people experience stress in their workplace. It's one of the most popular places, consistent places where we feel stress. And so as you've heard from some of our presenters already, there are similar patterns that I will touch on, such as walking on eggshells, bracing for criticism, or feeling unseen or unsafe when you speak up. And we've got lots of research that shows that chronic workplace stress activates the body's fight or flight response. It raises cortisol, it contributes to burnout, anxiety. You may find sleep challenges or reduced focus, which may lead to increased errors in your productivity. So knowing that your feelings are valid, these are your body's way of telling you the truth about the environment that you're in. So how might toxicity show up? So toxicity in a workplace doesn't always look dramatic. Sometimes it's repetitive or just subtle enough that we normalize it. You may notice that you feel unfair or excessive criticism. Maybe there's a culture of gossip or negativity that pressures you to fit in. Could be that your feelings, your ideas, or your contributions don't matter or are dismissed by your leaders and by your colleagues. You might say the day before, you might feel the night before you have to go to work, a tightness in your chest or some anxiety, muscle tension and aches, or any other type of distress before you head to work. There might be inconsistent communication or shifting expectations or unrealistic deadlines that bleed into your personal time. If you find yourself feeling that you shouldn't take breaks, you feel guilty about taking breaks during a day or even vacation time, that may be a signal to you. And in these environments, oftentimes leaders use pressure instead of support. And these reactions show up across workplaces and cultures, whether you work in a corporate office, a government agency, healthcare, school, nonprofit, community agencies, or even in a family-run business. The emotional and physical responses, they're human and they are universal. And we also have research that confirms that environments defined by low trust, unclear expectations, and interpersonal tension significantly increase anxiety and diminish our overall well-being. As women, especially as we move between, say, our 30s and into our 60s and beyond, we juggle many roles. We have professional responsibilities. We're caregivers. We support extended families. And we may be leaders in our communities and our places of faith and worship. When the workplace becomes unpredictable and hostile, one of the places we spend much of our time, our nervous system becomes overloaded. Chronic stress narrows our cognitive bandwidth. It reduces our creativity and it heightens reactivity. And understand, even the strongest, most accomplished women can begin doubting themselves in a toxic environment. So let me reiterate this clearly. We as women, when we express our concerns or we identify these things, we are not being difficult, we are not being dramatic, and most of all, we are not weak. Now, many of us hear well-meaning people say, why don't you just quit? Well, the reality is leaving isn't always possible. In some countries and regions, opportunities are limited. You may rely on the income. You stay, you might have a pension. Maybe there's a visa sponsorship involved, or you're working towards seniority. You may be years from retirement or supporting children, parents, or a household. So as someone who's worked with women from different cultural backgrounds, as well as across multiple organizational cultures, I've seen women at every level face the same patterns. You are not alone. You are not trapped. You need a strategy that honors your reality. So what can you do with the circumstances that you have? Well, as you've heard mentioned before, attempting to clarify expectations and set boundaries. You may have heard the phrase, to establish your boundary, you define what is me and what is not me. Well, at work with your time, it may be expressing the time that you're available. I'm available until 6 p.m. After that, I can respond in the morning. I can complete this portion today. The rest will be done tomorrow. Setting clear boundaries, it's not defiance. It's not disrespect. It is dignity. So what about if you are looking at resources locally within your organization? Well, in some places, there are human resources or employee relations departments that can offer a great deal of support. In others, your human resources may not feel neutral or safe. Documentation, however, is helpful everywhere, regardless of your country or organizational structure, because your documentation can be your clarity. It can help you verify what you're actually experiencing, especially when you begin to wonder, am I the only one who feels this way? Even if you never file a report. But keeping track of dates, specific behaviors, emails, the impact that that interaction or that behavior has had on you and others that may have witnessed it can be very valuable. What else? Well, in every workplace, there's usually some kind of structure, even if it's informal. So depending on your environment, you may find support in a supervisor or a senior woman in leadership. Some have unions or workers' councils or mediators. But I recognize that in some cultures and some workplaces, there are no internal options. What else can we do then? Well, support is a protective factor in every culture, but it looks different everywhere. But you may find a circle that's a close friend, a respected family elder, a faith or spiritual leader. Maybe there's a mentor or a trained emotional wellness professional. It doesn't have to be therapy in the Western sense, but it simply needs to be safe and a confidential space where you can express what you're carrying. There are other things we can do to kind of regulate our stress in a day, on a given day. Maybe a short walk, deep breathing, stretching to release the tension that has built up in your muscles, just stepping outside for a moment if possible. For some, it's listening to calming music. For me, it's listening to music that gets me hyped. My energy rages, I get super excited, but you've got to find what works for you. Hydration and nutrition, I know you hear a lot about that probably in different spaces, but it's so important to make sure our bodies have what it needs to be able to be resilient. And when you can rest, take a 15-minute break or a micro nap, please do what you can. You can honor yourself in environments that don't honor you. So if leaving is not possible right now, other things that might come into play, because say there are cultural or financial, geographic reasons you just can't, that doesn't make you powerless. If you must stay, you can also look at using the boundaries that we talked about, practice the micro restorations during the day, and most importantly, remind yourself that their behavior is not a reflection of your value. Quietly, if you can, plan an exit strategy over time, building skills, networking, opportunities. Healing doesn't require an immediate escape, but it does require clarity, boundaries, and support. So if you are preparing to leave, or if you think that may be an option in the future to protect your health, your emotional, your physical, and your psychological wellness, then start looking at activities like updating your resume and including those skills that you've gained in this position. Explore certifications, and if there are other skills that may make you a more marketable candidate. Network discreetly. Research environments that might align more with your values. And keep in mind, it's important that you think of a neutral explanation when you are explaining why you left your current organization if you're interviewing in a new place. So thinking of something along the way of, I'm seeking a healthy environment where I can contribute fully. Be honest, but be broad, because you want to show that new employer your value system and why you will be an asset to their team. So as I close, I just wanted to say women around the world carry extraordinary strength in your families, in your communities, in your workplaces. But strength does not mean absorbing disrespect or diminishing your voice. While we may not control every environment we walk into, we always control how we honor ourselves within it. You deserve dignity and safety and peace. So your next chapter begins the moment you decide your peace is non-negotiable. Thank you. Sharon?
Thank you, my darling, for such a strong analogy of the workplace and how women are taken advantage of or feel that they're not good enough. And thank you. There's more than we really know. I'll tell you that one. Or more than women who are in that place don't want to admit. It's courage and strength, and hopefully with help, they will call one of us to get them out of the rut and get that strength and get on the other side. Thank you very much.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Janique. Now, this is our newest member, Kelly. I always wanted I'm calling her a funny name, but I guess you women out, she's not what I'm going to say she is, but this is a friendly name. I always wanted an Australian broad, and I got Kelly. I chased a few, but time zone, we're so far, you're laughing, Kelly. We're so far apart in time zones, so that was a challenge for me. And Kelly, being the woman who she is today, put that aside. She's a very busy lady, oh my God, she's done more in the last 30 years that I get a hiccup from. She She specializes in health and wellness, but so much more. I can't even describe it. As you get to know her, you'll understand who she is. And she's the coach's coach. And I wasn't going to say this, but yesterday I haven't really done too much one-on-one because she's the relatively new one, the newbie, I'll call her. And I said to her, can we spend some time together? I learned from Kelly, and I will continue on learning from Kelly as long as I will live, because she has a lot to give me, Sharon. And to the audience here, I thank you, Kelly. I thank you for teaching me something I don't know, and I so want to know and understand even more. I understand a lot due to my age, but there's certain areas in my life I didn't have challenges with. And that was being strong, and I always had a healthy mind, and my strength made me go through life. But so many women aren't like me. And you work with these women, you have worked with these women, you've had clinics with them, and you continue to do so. And I will work with you. So I'm giving it off to you, my darling, from Australia, the continent I never traveled to and wish I had. But I will bring you into my life, so I will travel it with you.
Amazing. Oh my God, blessings so much to you, Sharon. Thank you so much for bringing all these beautiful women from every area of life. I've written down we have 2 doctors, 2 mothers, a nutritionist, and a confident 20-year-old. Oh my gosh. And to be able to support the end of this amazing webinar summit that you've put together, I am absolutely honored to have been asked to attend and be the last speaker for this amazing women's event, to be able to support and guide and help women make confident decisions in the situations that they find themselves in today, which is so heavily layered, I'm going to say. So what I'm going to talk to and share with you today is the different types of love that we find ourselves in, that we're stepping in through a cycle repetition. So let me quickly share my screen. Oh, we're starting at the end slide. So I want to speak to you about the spectrum of love. Love is a multi-bubble spectrum that we find ourselves in. And a lot of the women have spoken about different areas of, we find ourselves in familiar love, enduring love, deep friendship love, family love, playful love. And I'm going to just go through just a tiny little bit and support identifying if you're in a toxic relationship, what area of love does that play in for you? Okay, let's go. So the first one is passionate love, which I feel if we've all been in relationships, the start of a loving relationship that Holly spoke into very briefly and very, very lovely, lovingly, is something where our hearts beat, we're feeling noticed, we're feeling that somebody wants to have us in their lives. So it's about fury, it's about magnetic, it's about desire driven love, awakening and feeling alive. It feels intensive, it's excitement, and it's emotional igniting. It ignites every area and every cell in your body. The next one is enduring love. Not too many people get to have this kind of love. This is more of a strengthened love. This is the love that you work on, where you see women and men that are married and they've 30 plus, 20 plus years they've been in this relationship. This is commitment. This is loyalty. This is stability. This is the love that I feel so many people look for on so many different levels. The one we all love so much is the playful love. And that doesn't have to necessarily be with a partner. It can be with a girlfriend. It can be with your mum. It can be with your sister. And it's fun. It's spontaneous. It's joyful. And it supports you creating the laughter, creativity, and adventures that just makes you feel alive. And they're the people that you want to spend time with. Universal love. These are the people that have a mission. They have a purpose. This is an unconditional compassion. If you don't do it, you're doing yourself an injustice. Okay, and this is for the person that is the kindest, that has empathy and the endless connection to wanting to learn more, to do more, to be more in this world, and loving themselves just as much as loving their mission. The deep friendship love. Okay, this is the grounded. This is where you turn to, whether you have a best friend, or it could be. My sister is one of my bestest friends. Probably nearly one of my only best. I don't have too many friends. I don't confide into too many people. I used to have lots of friends, but I was people pleasing with those friends, and that wasn't grounding, and that wasn't trustworthy, and that was emotionally destroying. But deep love can be the opposite. Okay, so loyalty, acceptance, truth, and support come in to this frame of love. Self-love, Holly spoke into this also. This is all about honoring your personal worth. Okay, and sometimes when we give love so dramatically, so enhancingly, and so holistically, we lose that love for ourselves. And this is where self-respect comes in. We need to have self-respect for ourselves. We need to care for ourselves. Have a bath. One of my regular things that I do for myself is I have a bath nearly every single day, because that supports in grounding me. I can't go too many places. My hands are wet. I don't have my phone. I really give nearly 100% to myself when I'm in the bath. And it's in acceptance of the now. Be present with yourself, because it's the best gift you could possibly give yourself. Family love. Okay, so this is a tough one, because we have chosen family, and then we have our biological family, and sometimes our biological family. If we could just mute, please, guest one, that would be amazing. Thank you so much. Where was I? Family love, our chosen family and our biological family. So sometimes our biological family doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to be our family that we spend a lot of time with, like we did when we were a child. And through whatever means of relationship you have with that person, will determine how much time you want to spend with them. So if they're not making you feel like you are protected, they're not sharing your core roots, they're not respecting your boundaries, and they're not accepting your identity, those people can somewhat drift away. This has actually happened to me with a few family members, that it took me a long time to get to a place of acceptance, of knowing that it is okay not to have them in my life. And I can love them from a distance. And I don't necessarily need to love them, but I can then still know in my heart that they shared a special place and time and a memory that allowed me to be the best versions of myself today. So chosen families are not your choice. You get to choose whether they stay or go. And some people stay for a lifetime. Some people stay for a short time. And some people just dwindle in and out, that you see once a year, once every 2 years, once every 5 years. If I was to be Sharon's friend, she'd probably see me once every 10 years because she lives so far away. But it's a choice. Okay, we get to a place in our life where we choose our family. And that is one of the most beautifulest gifts I gave myself, thinking that I had to love a family member that didn't love me or didn't share that same love. Familiar love. Okay, there's a little bit more on the screen here. Love, when we choose familiar love, I think some of the ladies all spoke into this. We have healthy love and then we have shadow cycle love. Okay, we have the comfort and easy love. Okay, that's the nurturing, feeling wanted, feeling loved. And then we have the repeated parent behavior of how our parents spoke in. And I think Janice spoke into how she identified the emotional, what did she call it? I want to get this right. Blah, 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 blah. Emotionally dysregulation. Yeah, I really related to that on so many different levels with how my children grew up alongside me, being a very ambitious woman, mother, professional, loving, caring, cooking, so many hats that we all have to wear. Really identifying the repeated patterns of familiar love is how we actually break free from the cycles. Okay, there's so many different levels in knowing how to actually do that. And it's somewhat harder to do than it is to say, believe you me. But if you put your heart, your mind, your soul, and create a beautiful, personal, self-loving relationship with yourself, so you don't have that toxic relationship with yourself, first and foremost. This I learnt the hard way because I was trying to fix everything else that was around me, but it was me that I needed to fix. When I fixed me to be able to support regular daily habits and not neglecting that in any way, shape, or form, my world changed. And they say when you change you, your world changes. And that is true. Be the version that you want to see in the world, and you will attract those people to you. And then we have obsessive love. And this is the fear-driven love rooted in insecurities. Okay, this is the jealousy. This is the fixation. This is the emotional extreme of all extremes. And this happens with girlfriends. This happens with partners of any place and space. Identifying what type of love you have with these people will support you in knowing whether they're going to stay in your life or not. And so these are the 9 expressions of love. Thank you so much for being here. I am absolutely honored to be part of the stop sharing. Okay, stop sharing. There we go. Here I am. Thank you very much for being a part of this, Sharon, for putting this together and entrusting us with your vision of wanting to bring women together to support a much beautiful space where we can be so transparent, we can be authentic, and we can speak our mind and our truths. And so when we can speak our mind and our truths to beautiful women that have the understanding, guess what happens to the other beautiful women around us? They all grow in their truths. It gives them permission to be able to speak with authenticity, to speak with confidence, to speak with love, and not feel like they are having to hide or dodge another conversation in and around another conversation, in and around another conversation. So clarity is one of the most powerfulest things through communication that I highly recommend anybody that's wanting to reframe how they present themselves in any situation, whether it's with your children. If it's with your children are short, get down on your knees, communicate with them at their level. Don't feel like you're higher or lower than anybody. Meet people where they're at. This is the first sign of respect. create boundaries. When you create boundaries, it allows people to know how you want to be treated. And then the last one, which is what I started with, is clear communication. If you can't clearly articulate your words, write it down. Give yourself 5 minutes, 10 minutes, half an hour. Say, look, I just need 10 minutes, 30 minutes. I need to write this down so I can read it to you so I don't miss out on anything and you don't misunderstand what I'm saying. Thank you again, everyone, for attending. You're the best.
You know, it was when I was listening to you, you were showing your diagrams. I was saying, when am I and when I'm not? I was going through the 9 loves. You know, it's just phenomenal presentation. I want to say something about what you said, have talked about. Bringing in children in your life that aren't yours and who are 18 to 21, 22, not really knowing them, but they come into your life. We're talking about boundaries now. One specific child, I laid out boundaries. And she came back and she said to me, Sharon, some of these are difficult for me to do. I want to be in your life more. I love you. Can we work on this? And I see she was 22 at the time. I'm going to tell you something, Kelly. What she said to me was correct. She taught me what should be done. So I'm going to say I got them in my late 50s. This is a child 30 years younger than me, more, 35. What I've learned in life, it's not about age. It's about who you are. And if you're authentic and real, then you move people. And she's loving and caring, of course. So I want to thank you for that. And I thank God for Sharon. I'm talking about Sharon now. I've been in the positive parts of your diagram. And I always was and I always will be. So when I speak to people and connect with people, they see who I am immediately. There's no wall. There's no anything. There's Sharon. And all of these women that I've chosen are the same like me in a different way, but basically the same. And I want to thank you all for encouraging me to even move stronger with this group. Thank you again, Kelly, my Australian broad.
I've never been called abroad before.
Well, you know, a woman could call another
Always a-
woman abroad, not a man, but a woman.
Yeah.
Because it's not
It's
out
always
of
a first time for everything.
yeah, and it's not out of disrespect; it's out of love.
I know.
So
I know.
sometimes when a man calls you abroad, yeah, babe, don't call me that because that's not respectful. Because you know where he's going. So yeah. So okay. I'm gonna just say a few words and then we're gonna go into the Q&A. But I just want to say what I put here. I want to thank you all so much for engagement today. We know that everything we discussed, identifying toxicity, setting boundaries, and facing difficult decisions, is a monumental undertaking. You've taken the essential first step, awareness. Now, the next step is application. While we've given you the map, we understand that applying these concepts to your unique, specific relationship, whether it's with a partner, family member, or boss, requires personalized guidance. You need a safe space to talk about the nuances we couldn't cover in this general session. Because you showed up today, we are committed to changing your relational patterns. We want to offer you a special opportunity. We've focused solely on your specific situation, help you clarify the most immediate toxic pattern you face, and identifying the single most important boundary you need to set toward. Normally, a focused discovery session is 30 minutes. For everyone who attended this webinar, We are offering a special call for 60 minutes using the code TOXIC. Absolutely free. We have limited slots available over the next week. You can secure yours right now. Looking in the chat box, we just dropped a direct link to our booking calendar. Don't let the momentum of this powerful hour fade. If you leave here and go back to the old patterns, nothing will change. Take actions now. Click the link, book your session, and let's work together to create the healthy, respectful life you totally deserve. Or go to my website, sharontabak.com.